So tell me a little bit about George.
Well, first of all, as everyone probably gotten by now, he was a very humble guy. He was just, his build was such that it could be intimidating if you didn't know him. But he was an individual that really, he never met a stranger. If you had an opportunity to interact with him, you would know full well when that was concluded that, hey, this is a nice guy. I really like his positiveness. You know, he's very encouraging because he was truly a gentle giant. And, you know, it's just so heartbreaking that this has taken. And, you know, the family is really dealing with it and truly one day at a time. And but we will get through this process. And, but it's a trying time. Yeah, I was there when he was born. Yeah, my brother Perry. We always call George Perry Jr. because he was my brother's namesake, George Perry Floyd Jr. And but we know him as Floyd. I mean, it's George, or yeah, or Big Floyd, as the media has found out. But he was just a good guy. My brother Perry had two daughters, Jaja and Tanya, and they were born 11 months, 3 weeks apart. So my brother and my sister-in-law, we called her Sissy, Larcinia. They said, well, let's put the brakes on this because he was hoping out of those two transactions that he would have gotten a boy. So about 6 years later, lo and behold, they tried again, and George came about. So you can imagine my brother was a happy camper. Hey, I got that boy. I'm good, Roger. I got that boy. And when they brought him home from the hospital, in fact, he was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I was in college down there at that time, and I was actually living with him. And it was such a joyous occasion. And I said, man, I'm so proud of you. I'm so glad for you. And subsequently, as time passed on, we relocated to Houston, Texas, which his formative years is where he actually grew up. And that was some time. He was quite an athlete, a very, very competitive young man. It was just innate. It was just in his spirit to do that. And one thing led to another, you know, growing up, you know, those different sagas in life that you deal with. But extraordinary young man. Life taken away too soon. And it is quite an egregious crime, is what I'm going to call it for what it's worth. And our goal is peaceful. The Floyds, we are a peaceful clan. We really are. You know, as my mom would say, you just take the Lord with you everywhere you go. And when you think back on that, that's what just breaks your heart. It really does. And he was just a great young man. And I really wish that the world had a chance to know him like the world is expressing themselves now. And we're so thankful for the protests. But, you know, the family goal is we would much rather have a peaceful protest, because when it has gotten out of hand and the destruction starts and all of that, you know, it's lose sight of what the goal is. The goal is to seek justice. The goal is to seek change, legislative changes, where these changes are etched into law. And the police, those tactics that are used they aren't readily acquitted through these loopholes, these legal loopholes that have come about time and time and time again. You see it. And this incident is right in your face. You see it. And I really commend the chief of police for taking the action, the immediate action, without having to deal with any hierarchy to make the decision. He felt it was within his own power as the chief of police to immediately terminate their employment. And I commend him for that, because just sitting back, as he said in his own words, is simply complicit. If you don't say anything, just like those other officers that should be arrested immediately, and I believe that's going to come about. And I was so pleased to hear that this case has now been put in the hands of the Attorney General for the state of Minnesota, that he will be the lead prosecutor. And I'm looking forward to that as we continue to mourn the death, the loss of my dear nephew.
When you see the huge groups of peaceful protesters,
Yes.
what goes through your mind?
Oh, it fills my heart with joy. I am so grateful. In fact, our entire family is just completely full of gratitude as a result that individuals that don't even know him but have learned of him through you guys, the media, and how you present it. And we appreciate so much your involvement day to day, keeping it in the eyes of the public, showing the real truth of this matter, you know, and that's what's so critically important at this time. Put it out there, keeping your eyes on the prize, justice, not only for George Floyd, but justice for all, and especially, you know, Black Lives Matter. My life matter, okay? I have integrity, impeccable integrity, because it's important to me. Our family is one of love, you know, touchy-feely, embracing each other, telling each family member every time there's an encounter, there's a gathering, expressing to them that I love you. And it's done from the core of our being. And this is just devastating to the family. Well, we will get through with it.
Sounds like you have a lot of
Yeah.
family support.
Yeah, it's totally there. And my wish for my family is to always show a united front, family unity. That's not difficult for us. But sometimes with all the noise, you can sometimes lose sight of that. Yes, we're angry. We're angry. But that anger is controlled by a greater being, because we know what is happening now to our immediate family. This is bigger than all of us. It's so much bigger than all of us. And I hope there will be a monumental change in our society. Race relationships will be altered, will change. But it starts with the very first person. What is in your heart? That's where change come about with each individual. And then it just mushrooms into society. And that's when change takes place.
Are you hopeful that it will?
I am hopeful. I am very optimistic. That's my prayer. And I'm claiming that right now. But I'm claiming it in a higher power. Because God does not like ugliness. You know, the enemy will come to steal, you know, to bring about noise. And ultimately, that destruction, okay, is here. It's before you. You see it every day. You know, greed changes to, well, grief can easily change to greed. And that, we don't want that at all. We want to be a united front, and that's what we're all about.
When you see what started out as such peaceful protests of people making their voices heard on Saturday night, and then later in the night you see people bashing in storefronts and things like that, what's your reaction to that?
Well, uncalled for, totally uncalled for, because it becomes a situation of selfishness instead of being selfless. And that the agenda changes. You have an opportunity now with the looting and all this loitering that's going on is totally out of control. The whole mission of a peaceful protest changes. And of course, there's a lot of infiltration of outside individuals that are infiltrating these peaceful protests, and they're agitators, and they're getting in and getting out. And you can see when all of this starts, usually late evening and certainly at night. And that causes mass confusion. And with these curfews that have been established now, which are so necessary, unfortunately, but that's the only way that they can counter the situation, to try to identify those individuals who are just becoming an influx in these peaceful demonstrations that go awry. And that's very, very unfortunate that that's taking place. And that's what another thing that just breaks my heart, to see that happening, because we are so fond and we're so thankful, we're just so grateful for the masses nationally and internationally that have stepped up, that have shown family respect. And they're saying to me with these demonstrations that the Floyd family, we feel you. We are behind you. We are hopeful that there will be a change, and we want to keep the momentum going so that change will come about. But we know we got to enact legislation and get that legislation into law on the books. So officers, so many of them are great officers. They put their lives on the line every single day for the good of the people. And then you got those factions within that organization that just distorts the whole system. And so now the general public look at the police as the bad guy or the bad guys. And they're our front line of protection. That's what they're there for. That's what they put the badge on for every single day. And that's what I respect. And that's what I've always respected.